Hello, hi, how are you? And welcome to another podcast by George. Well, if you're a regular listener of Podcast by George, you know one of the recurring themes is climate change. I view it as one of the biggest, if not the biggest, threats facing America and the world right now. And we need to do something, folks. And there's a new presidential candidate that has vowed to make it priority number one. And I'm all in. I'm all ears for that. Jay Inslee, the governor of Washington, appeared on the campus of Iowa State University this week after announcing his candidacy last week. And I wanted to bring you some background and a little bit of the stump speech for Washington Governor Jay Inslee. Now, this is from his website. Governor Jay Inslee has led Washington State since 2013, implementing a bold, progressive vision to tackle climate change, strengthen working families, and grow good-paying jobs. Under Jay's leadership, Washington State has been a beacon of progress. The state has been ranked the best place to work, the number one economy in the nation, and one of the country's leading states for clean energy. According to the Atlantic magazine, on his watch, the state has boosted health care, increased access to early childhood education and college, raised the minimum wage, expanded paid family leave, invested in infrastructure, and established in-state net neutrality, all while leading the country in job growth, overall personal income growth, and GDP. Fighting climate change has been the driving force behind Jay's career. As governor, he has enacted policies that make Washington State a national leader in clean energy, clean air, and clean water. Jay created a new clean energy fund, which has invested more than $100 million in developing and deploying innovative energy technologies and growing clean energy businesses and jobs. He passed the largest and greenest transportation infrastructure investment package in state history. And he started the Clean Energy Institute at the University of Washington, which is pioneering research into next-generation renewable energy technologies like solar and battery storage. Jay was known as a climate leader in Congress, where he championed investments to grow America's clean energy industries and introduced groundbreaking climate legislation. In 2007, he co-authored a book on the need for a large-scale effort for igniting America's clean energy economy to create millions of jobs and transition America off of fossil fuels. While in Congress, Jay voted against the Iraq War in 2003. Now, that's always significant to me. He voted against the repeal of Glass-Steagall in 1999. Yeah, that was something we shouldn't have done, and was one of Congress's earliest proponents of net neutrality. Jay grew up in the Seattle area, where his father was a high school teacher and his mother worked as a clerk at Sears and Roebuck. Jay married his high school sweetheart, Trudy, and raised 3 sons. Jay and Trudy are now proud grandparents of 3, and he'll mention that here in the speech. Jay's an avid cyclist, I like that, and a hiker. He enjoys sketching scenes from around Washington and writing and illustrating books for his grandchildren. Jay is committed to protecting Washington State's clean air, water, and natural lands for his grandchildren and all children to enjoy. Jay first got into the public service to fight for a new public school in his community. He then went to serve in the state legislature and in 1992 was elected to represent the 4th Congressional District in rural eastern Washington. He later moved back to the Seattle area and was elected to Congress in 1998, where he served until 2012. In 2012, he was elected Washington's 23rd governor and is currently serving in his 2nd term. So let's pick up the speech at Iowa State University. And this guy is a compelling candidate. He shares many of the views that we all share as Democrats and liberals and progressives. And really it comes down a lot of times to prioritization. Which candidate prioritizes which issues? And with Jay Inslee, it's climate change.
Well, good afternoon. What a beautiful day. I know it might have been a little cold here, but we love the sun in Washington State. We love the electricity it can make. We were just in Cedar Rapids at Paulson Solar Facility, seeing jobs being created in solar energy. So we look at this as electricity that's raining down. And now we have brilliant students who are going to create a whole new revolution in clean energy, and they're right here in this room. And it's really exciting for me to get to meet people who are going to do that. You know, when I think of revolution, I think of Norman Borlaug, who started the Green Revolution. I believe we're going to see students from this university leading another green revolution. And isn't it going to be great when we have a green economy that is decarbonized, that can defeat climate change? And I'm running for President of the United States because I believe it should be the #1 priority of the United States to defeat climate change. And I feel a kinship with everybody in this room because I think you're studying and developing the intellectual skills to be able to do that. So I'm very excited to be here. I look and I see myself 45 years ago when I was at the University of Washington studying economics, and I got involved in a project studying energy, and we were comparing the energy use policies of Stockholm, Sweden, and Seattle, Washington. So I started studying clean energy in 1971, and I just want to suggest you need to be very careful because you might be doing energy work when you're 68 years of age. So, but don't be daunted. We need you more now than ever. I want to thank you for the ideas you're going to share with me today. Let's have Adam, and thanks for being here.
So as I mentioned at the onset, we're on the campus of Iowa State University in the Memorial Union in rather a small room, and it's packed with students and friendly observers like Podcast by George, and I think it's just another indicator of how hotly contested this 2020 presidential election is going to be. Next, the governor heard from Iowa State University students about what they're doing to try to affect climate change, and particularly on their own campus, and he seemed really pleased with the initiative taken by Iowa State University students.
This is so encouraging to me. I'm just really inspired to be in this room with you because if you look at history, revolutions start in small rooms with relatively small groups of people, and they change the world. And I believe that we can change the world in a way to rescue our nation from the threat of climate change and build a clean energy economy, starting in this room. And when you look at the creative juices and the political aspirations that we're hearing about, we are capable of doing that. And so I'm really inspired that you would come out on a day like this to talk about how we can do that. The way I look at this is a rescue mission, and it is also a building mission. It is a rescue mission because we understand the urgency of this problem. We understand that we are the first generation to feel the sting of climate change, and we are the last generation that can do something about it. When you look at the science that's rolling in here about what we are facing, we're out of time. We've got to get a national mission statement to defeat climate change. And we in this room can be involved in doing that by getting a new president. And I can tell you we need that. There is 10,000 IQ points more in this room than exists in the White House today, I can tell you. And we need to create a vision statement from the American presidency to really ignite the passions and abilities and innovative character of the American people, and I believe we can do that. And we need to do it right now. And I've seen myself the consequences of lack of leadership right now from the Oval Office. I was in Paradise, California, a town of 25,000 that burned literally to the ground, and I was driving at night for an hour. It looked like an apocalypse movie. That's Paradise, California. In my city in Seattle, where I'm but enjoying 3 grandchildren, our kids could not go outside during the summer because the air quality was so bad because the forests were on fire in British Columbia and Washington State. We had to close our swimming pools. Our kids could not go swimming because of the air quality. We had the worst air quality in the world last summer, not Beijing, not New Delhi. We saw Houston drowning in precipitation events. We see Miami Beach, where I met the mayor, where they've had to build up Main Street 1.5 feet so you don't have fish swimming over Main Street all the time. Last time I was in Iowa, farmers could not get out to harvest their crops because it was so muddy and so wet because of these incredible precipitation events. And I know that you have scientists on your campus who are members of the Iowa Scientific Assessment Team who told us about what the threats are to growing seasons and crop conditions here in Iowa with this tremendous agricultural industrial system we have in Iowa. So we do not have any more time. This is an urgent issue. It is a matter of health. It is a matter of asthma. We have an epidemic of asthma because of pollution. It is a matter of infectious diseases that are moving north because the vectors are moving north. It is a matter of national security. The Pentagon has told the president, but he refuses to read his memos, that have identified this as a major national security threat. And the reason is obvious, because as climate change is causing more deserts, we have already seen mass migrations of people, because they're starving to death, have to move to Europe and cause massive political instability. And it is a matter of economics, because we are losing billions of dollars of economic activity right now already that is hurting our economy. The projections are that we will have damage by the end of this century to the United States economy equivalent to several states of GDP growth. So we need to rescue our economy, we need to rescue our children's health, and we need to rescue ourselves from this national security threat. So that's the peril, and it is urgent. But I am very optimistic about seeing opportunity in this peril, because we have the capability of building a whole new economy based on clean energy. And we're starting that effort right today. I just mentioned I was up at Paulson Electric, where they're installing solar panels like crazy. And I met Tyler Olson, who's really a great guy, who was telling me that he's doing so well at his company. He says, and I was lauding him for his achievements and how brilliant of an entrepreneur he was. And he says, well, you know, you don't have to be really brilliant, because the price of electricity based on fossil fuels is going up, and the price of electricity based on solar power is going down. He says, you don't have to be too brilliant to understand this is a great business opportunity. We see job creation going on today like crazy across the United States. Jobs in clean energy are growing twice as fast, right, as the rest of the U.S. economy. Jobs in solar installation is the #1 job creation category in the United States. Jobs in wind turbine technicians are the second most fast-growing thing in the United States. So we have this tremendous job engine of growth that is available to us if we will just have a little bit of leadership. Now, I heard, I got into it with Meghan McCain on The View yesterday morning, because she was quoting Donald Trump about the effort to have clean energy. And, you know, Trump said that you can't use wind power because your television won't work. What a bunch of bunk. I mean, the only way I can describe that statement is just moronic. We have a wind turbine industry here in Iowa. We have it in Washington State. It is consistently providing us reasonably and lower cost electricity than the alternatives right now. But now we need a mission statement to ignite our abilities to have a 100% clean grid, to create millions of jobs, to grow our industry in exports and clean energy, and to have a just transition that helps everybody participate, not just those who've grown up in circles of privilege. We know who's been damaged by climate change first. It's people living in poverty. It's communities of color. It's the frontline communities who've been marginalized. They're living by the toxic waste dumps, and they're breathing the diesel fumes, living next to the highways. So we have to have a just transition that will focus on bringing income equality while we build this new clean energy economy. And we're capable of doing this. We just need inspiration. And we need a mission statement that comes from the White House. Now, not very many of you were alive in this room, or I guess there's a few of us, who remember when John F. Kennedy said, we're going to go to the moon in 10 years and bring a man back. He meant a man or a woman, that's what he really meant, but to bring a person back in 10 years. And that inspired a nation to a new mission. And I believe we need a new mission statement. And that's a mission to build a clean energy economy. And I believe America will respond to that. And the reason I believe that is because of the basic character of who we are as Americans. Look, we're the innovators par excellence. We invent, we create, we build. This is in our wheelhouse. This is what we do. We do not fear the future. We create it. We do not fear challenge. We embrace it. We do not fear the world. We lead it. This is who we are as Americans. And we got some great people right here in this room who are going to be doing this in the next several decades. So I'm inspired by your presence. I can tell you that I'm the candidate who is saying this, and I really believe this. If we're going to beat climate change, we have to make climate change the #1 priority, beating climate change the #1 priority for the United States. It is necessary that we do that. And if I'm elected, I will make defeating climate change the #1 priority of the United States, and I pledge right here to do that. It is the right thing to do, it is the necessary thing to do, and it is the thing that can grow our economy like crazy. So I'm excited about that. Now, that doesn't mean that I have not had experience doing other things as governor. I'm very proud of our state. We have the best economy in the United States, and that in part because we have built what I call a middle-out economy instead of top-down, instead of trickle-down. Trickle-down doesn't work. It doesn't work in my state, so we've embraced a middle-class building exercise. And so the things we have done have allowed us to build a very efficient economy. We've got the best paid family leave in America. We've got one of the best minimum wage raises. I was the governor who led the effort to pass the first net neutrality law in the United States, and I signed it. We've got the best voting rights law to fight back against the Republican voter suppression efforts. We've had a great transportation infrastructure package. We've had reproductive parity. We're eliminating the death penalty. We've legalized marijuana. And I believe we need to remove the racial disparity from the criminal justice system. That's why I'm offering pardons to 3,000 people who had misdemeanor marijuana convictions. We're moving the ball forward for justice. At the same time, we're moving the ball forward for diversity and inclusion, and produced the best economy in the United States. And those things are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they're exactly symbiotic. Because when you build an inclusive society that is open and diverse and protects marriage equality, and you bring smart people around the world into your state, you build your economy. And I hope some of you at some point, with your parents' permission, will come to take a job in Washington State sometime as well. I think you'll enjoy it. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to see what you're doing on this mission statement. Look, we need, and we are getting young leadership. This is a generation that gets it. When I travel around the country, I'm inspired by young people. I was at Dartmouth a few weeks ago, and the depth of concern of this generation is stunning to me. I met a young woman who said that she'd talked to two of her friends who were wondering if they should bring a child into the world, given the degraded conditions we were in. That's not acceptable to us. We want to keep this string of humanity going. We want to free our children for clean air. We want to give an attitude of a just transition, and we can do all those things if we get a new president. So I'm here in Iowa to meet people, and I hope to get to know you over time. Let's get a new president so we can beat climate change, okay? That's what we're going to do. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so the governor has hit on something here that, particularly at the beginning of these comments, as you'll recall, that I was extremely interested in and that I've talked about on the podcast before, and that is there are some climate scientists out there that are saying the problem is much more severe than we believe it to be, that it is much more urgent than we think it may be. Nobody knows for sure. We've never been here before, and some have said there's a 7-year window to get this thing fixed. I mean, I find that hard to believe. I hope that's not true. We went to the moon, but can we fix this in 7 years? So after his presentation, your intrepid reporter, Podcast by George, had the microphone for the governor and asked him about that specifically. Governor, Podcast by George back.
By George, yes.
I'm a former Iowa newsman, and I retired, so I started this podcast.
This is a nice way to be in retirement.
It is a great retirement.
Yeah, that's great.
So here's my question. I consider you to be the Paul Revere of climate change.
Yeah.
You and Al Gore going back over a decade.
Well, I can't hold a candle to Al Gore.
Well, but your assessment of where we're at, there are some climate scientists that are saying we're in a 7-year window. We've got 7 years based on what we currently have, and that's it. Is it that severe?
We have to realize that we are already experiencing the lash of climate change, and unfortunately, a lot of that is locked in because carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere for sometimes 100 years. Knowing that we just have to have a sense of urgency, and I have that sense of urgency, and every scientist I know has that sense of urgency. Now, we are going to be acting on this in year 1 and year 7 and year 25. We're going to have to work on this throughout the upcoming decades. I wouldn't say that we should stop working on it on year 8, but what is important, we need to start working on it on year 1 of the next president, and that's what I'm committed to.
It's very commendable that you're kicking off here on the campus of Iowa State University.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a great group.
Yeah, and thank you for encouraging all the young people to step in, because this is another climate change question. I've seen some leading climate scientists that say, based on what we currently have, we're not going to fix it. We have to invent, discover, research our way out of this.
Yes.
And it's going to be people like this that do it.
Yes, I do believe that there are many, many technologies we can use today. There are all kinds of things we can do today on a cost-effective basis that we're not doing. But I do believe we will have to take additional innovative steps forward. There's no question about this. And that's why I have created a research institute at my universities, and they're doing some great work. That's why I'm inspired by young people. I met a young man who invented a new kind of lithium-ion battery membrane the other day at age 18. That's why I'm inspired by these folks, because these are the ones that are really going to create these technologies. And I was really interested. We had a chemical engineering major, we had an architecture major, we had a geology major here. These are the people bringing their scientific acumen to getting this job done. It's not just policy. We have to have people who understand technology as well. And so I'm going to look forward to their success.
Go get him.
Thanks, George. I look forward to following you.
Well, it sounds like Podcast by George may have picked up another devotee, and I'm thrilled with that. That's Governor Jay Inslee from the state of Washington, talking about a number one priority and something you'll hear a lot about here, which is climate change. Now, the other thing about it is a lot of the Democratic candidates in the field, and I've heard there's something like maybe as many as 30 potential candidates vying for that nomination, but a lot of them are going to be talking about climate change along with other issues. So it boils down to priority. Jay Inslee says it's job number one. It is priority number one. It is the thing that he will deal with first and foremost when he takes office, along with a range of other issues, which he also spoke about at Iowa State University, but which time won't allow for us to discuss. Now, lastly, the thing that I'll say, and I'm going to start talking about this, with that large of a field, how are we going to vet these candidates? How are we going to find our way through the field? Well, unfortunately, I think probably what's going to happen, particularly when the Republicans start getting involved and start taking notice of the leading candidates. You heard of whack-a-mole. Folks talk about that a lot. I think it's going to be whack-a-skeleton. We're going to start pulling these candidates apart. They're going to start looking deep into their backgrounds, trying to find things that will perhaps cause them to fall out. That's a hell of a way to choose your presidential candidates, but I fear that's what's to come. Let's hope not. Let's hope we can keep this civil and deal with the issues of the day, like climate change. Well, listen in, follow along. We're going to be tracking these candidates, so we're going to have that on, along with other news and blues and interviews, and you can find us on iTunes and on www Podcast by George. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, all kinds of places, and I look forward to the coming months and the run-up to the 2020 presidential election. But for now, that's another Podcast by George.